So I've been pondering this topic all week, and I thought it would be a good one to explore with you, for you to look at yourselves and look at what I'm about to say and see how different it is. And so what we're going to explore is, are we becoming robots? Isn't that an interesting topic? And you're probably saying, what are you talking about, Lee? Why would you even go there? Well, let's look at some things that are facts. We're like robots in that we're run by our software programs, i.e., our unconscious habits of thinking. So if you think about a robot, what is a robot? It's a mechanical device. And then what happens? The mechanical device has programs installed in it. And the programs that are installed in this create what? Creates the robot, how the robot responds. And so what are they doing now? Now they're talking about building artificial intelligence. More and more artificial intelligence being built into robots, into computers, and they start to think for themselves. So what's happening? We as humans are programming these robots to react in a certain way. So we're literally trying to what? Create a machine human. And I ask the question, why would we try to create a machine human when we're creating humans as machines already? Think about that. We're creating humans as machines already. So let's take a look at this even further. Psychology shows that our lives are 95% driven by our unconscious thoughts or our unconscious behaviors. 95% of what's going on in you, you have no idea that it's happening because it's been programmed into you. And you're saying, well, wait, I didn't choose that program. Where did that program come from? Well, listen to this. Young children's brains under the age of 7 live in the state of theta, which is a state of hypnosis. In the state of hypnosis, what happens? Anything that is observed, anything that is witnessed, the child blindly accepts into its life because from 0 to 7, its brain is trying to build a program which allows it to live, to fit into the world around it. So if you understand that, then you realize that when I'm looking at relationships, what was the model that I had? I would look at my mom and my dad, and I would absorb whatever my mom and dad were putting out in a relationship. That's my basis for relationship. When I would look at what is money, I would watch my mom and dad. How did they handle money? What did they have in their lives, right? That would blindly come into my mind. I would look at what are my health habits? What are the eating habits of my parents, of my family members? I would blindly accept all of that in. And then at around age 7, I just start to live. Well, here's the thing. When is there the process that's automatic in our lives where we go back and we evaluate all the stuff we took in? It's never there. It's a conscious choice to go back in and reevaluate that subconscious programming. That's the interesting thing. And so what's happening, you're seeing in the world today, most people in the world are functioning by unconscious programming that they don't even know that's there. So what are people doing? They're living unconsciously numb, as the great Pink Floyd put into lyrics. You've got to just understand that these old rockers, they had a lot of wisdom in what they were saying. But we were too stoned to realize it at the time. I was right there with you back in the 60s and 70s. So, well, some of you weren't even alive back then. You weren't even a glow in your mother's eye back then, Corey. And since then, you've already got grandchildren, for God's sakes. You didn't waste any time. Anyway, let's go on and say, we are born like a computer with no software. So we're born, our mind is free. Nature gives us the necessary programming to function by absorbing all that is around us. Do you get that? That's really clear. We absorb it. We're sponges. My granddaughter Claire is a sponge. She's observing everything. And I share with Matthew and Robert, I share with them, don't worry about what you say to her. She's absorbing what she's watching. And so when Claire comes and visits us and spends days with us this last time, you know I was programming her. You know, I'm aware of it. I consciously got down and programmed this little girl that she's perfect, that she doesn't have to be anything other than what she's being right now. My job was to be on the ground with her, accepting her as she was, and exploring life with her. Have you ever really got down and explored life with a child? It's fascinating. Instead of trying to control children, be like children, and you're more like the divine. But when you're trying to control children, who are you being? The programmer of the robot. Think about that. And then you come in, and so the child has been programmed from 0 to 7. They're now in the educational system. And what is the educational system designed for? For us to fit into the industrial workplace. When the education system in the United States was developed in 1903 by Rockefeller and the Carnegies and all of them, their specific mission statement was to produce good corporate citizens to work in the corporate environment. Do you get that? That's what education is. Education taught you what to think, not how to think. And how to think is the key to your unique, individualized expression of what you were brought here to be. So as I contemplated, what would I do differently now if I was a parent of my 2 sons? How would I handle it differently? I would probably do whatever I could to promote my children into becoming entrepreneurs, business people for themselves. And I would promote, how do I uncover them, discovering what is their unique gift? And how can they make that gift of service to others, where others will want that service and reciprocate by the exchange of money? You see, that's all money is. Money is an exchange of energy. Well, why not do something that you love? So I did the corporate gig for 32 years. When I left the corporate gig, I was an executive in the insurance industry. Insurance industry was very good to me. I couldn't be here right now had I not been in the insurance industry. It gave me the financial freedom to be able to be a minister. I'm not, you know, if you look around, this is not Joel Osteen's church. Because if it was, we would be in the AA center. We'd have 18,000 people there, and we would have signed you all up individually to tithe. Now think about that. I'd have a big mansion. I wouldn't. But that's how mansions occur in ministers. You see, we have gotten so disillusioned by what money is that we've made it a god. We literally put people who have money on a pedestal. And do you realize most people didn't get there because of anything special? Do you know how they got there? They were programmed. Think about, why are the Rockefellers always wealthy? Because from 0 to 7, what were they programmed? Why are the Kennedys such an esteemed and wealthy family? Because they were programmed. And if you start to really look at where people are, it's because of where they were brought up, how they were brought up, and it was the unconscious program that was going in. But there are a few people who are able to go beyond the programming, to reprogram their minds and have a completely different experience. That's who you are. Because you wouldn't be here if you didn't believe it wasn't possible to have a new experience. There's something in each of you that is saying, I'm more than what my past is. I want to learn how to do that so I can create a whole new life based on what I value, not what my parents blindly bought into, because our parents blindly bought into their parents, blindly bought into their parents. I think back about my mother, and my mother was raised in Sicily by my grandmother, who was forced to marry my grandfather because the marriages were arranged, and my grandmother hated my grandfather, because I remember she telling me that, but because she was a Catholic and she married him, she had to say she loved him or she was going to hell. But as she got into her 90s, she didn't give a flip about hell, and so she told the truth. So what did my mother have as an example of being in a relationship? Her mother who disliked her husband. So what did my mother marry? A man similar to her husband, my dad. So what relationship did I have in my mind when I was being brought up? I had a relationship where to know that you were loved meant your mother yelled at you. To know that you were loved, your mother took a wooden spoon and beat you. What did it mean for a father to love you? Father was never home. Father was always working. If he wasn't working, where was dad? In the bar. Why? Didn't want to go home to mom. Was bored with his life. You really start thinking about this and you start playing, I'm playing games with it right now, but when you start thinking about it, that was the basic nature of what I thought. But there was something in me that started at the age of 5 or 6 that I started to explore and realize love had to be something different than what I saw. And I can remember in 1997 being at Unity Village with Gene, and we were at a retreat, and I found a book there by a Unity writer, Eric Butterworth, on love, a little itty-bitty pamphlet. And so I decided at that point I was going to read everything I could possibly find on what love is. And if you notice, what is the mission of Agape? It's to teach and support its community as it learns how to better self-love through conscious living. So I've literally taken the desire that I've had within me all of my life, that I've spent all my life researching, and it's at the core of everything that we teach at Agape, but it's really the same core of what's at the basis of all spirituality. Because until you self-love, until you self-recognize that you're an individualized expression of infinite, you are saying to yourself you're not worthy, and when you're saying you're not worthy, you're living under old programming. So to live in a state of love, you cannot give a flip what anyone else thinks. Does that make sense? This idea of really living in love, you cannot care what anyone else thinks. You have to be real, you have to be authentic. And if you're real and you're authentic and your intentions are honorable, you've done nothing ever to hurt anybody, because everyone's got a trigger. Do you get that? Everyone's got buttons. And you know what? You're going to press them. And it's not your responsibility to worry about pressing people's buttons. It's your responsibility to come from love and be authentic. Because if you're coming from love and you're being authentic, there's nothing more you can do in the world. That is the greatest form of existence. So most of our programming or thought is a result of behavior that we've unconsciously downloaded. I put this in here because I wanted you to hear the word unconscious, so you don't have to go into the guilt game, the victim game of all that. Because it's not about you making a bad choice. You unconsciously, because of the way your brain worked, got this BS programming. But the power is that you can change that programming. That's the key. You can change the programming. Not me, not anyone else. The work is in you. If you've got a guru, if you've got a shaman, if you've got a priest, if you've got a minister, they're not going to do shit for you. I can't be any more clear for that. They may point the direction, but you have to do the work. Nobody else. You have to do the work. Here's a really great thing that hit me. We may consciously want something, but most of our functioning is unconscious. Ergo, we don't get what we want. Think about that idea. You consciously want something new. But what's playing in the back of your mind? Your unconscious thoughts about whether you're worthy of it or not. So consciously, 5% of your thought is going against 95% of your thought. And so you don't get it. So what do you have to do? You have to change what's in the unconscious mind to become the man or the woman who is worthy of that which you're desiring. Once you do that, then that can come in. But until something changes back here, nothing. You can consciously say, I want a life partner. But if your unconscious mind says, man, I've witnessed a lot of relationships and they just suck. It's just pain, it's just misery, it's just that. And that's playing in the background, and you've got experience. Here's the thing. If you've got experience that backs it up, and everybody does, you're going to sabotage when a good thing comes into your life because you don't think you're worthy of it. Because it's easier to run from that which is good than to be in that which is good when you're not feeling worthy of it. Whatever we're struggling with, it's because we are trying to override an unconscious pattern of thinking or program. That's the key. Do you get that? Wherever we are struggling in any area of life, we're trying to override an unconscious pattern. So where's the struggle? Conscious mind wants this. Unconscious mind wants this. There's the struggle. Who's going to win? Unconscious mind every time, until conscious mind reprograms unconscious mind. You're hearing this really clear. The work is this reprogramming the unconscious mind. That's the work. That's not easy. That's work. To install a new program, to do that, it is through repetition and practice. It is the persistent and consistent spiritual practice that does it. Many people are out there and they're saying, I've got this modality and that modality, and we can speed it up. You know, probably can a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, for example, I'll use one of my teachers. I'll use Dr. John DeMartini. His breakthrough method is my mind, is the greatest single method of breaking any issue that I've ever seen within a 2 to 3 hour period. I've never seen it done better. If you do the work in the breakthrough, you will break an issue. Stephen, do you agree with that? My son did the breakthrough 7 years ago? 8 years ago. He did the work on me. I was the issue in his life. So he sat down and he did the work on me, and since that time, our relationship turned completely around. Where we accept each other as we are, we don't judge each other. I no longer have to be a parent, he no longer has to be a child. He's an individual. He has different views than I do, and we respect each other. But he did the work. I didn't do the work, he did the work. But he had to be ready to do the work. That's the key thing. When we have people in our lives and we want to see people differently, we can't do the work for them. Do you get that? Laura, you can't do the work for your daughter, can you? She's got to do it in her own time, in her own way. And that's what we try to do as parents. We try to change our children. Only they can change themselves when they're ready. And if you're in a relationship, you can't change your partner. I want to tell you, 46 going on 47 years of marriage, I have done my best to change Jean. I see potential like you can't imagine in my wife. However, the potential that I see is different than the potential that she wants. I'm not right, except when I want to believe I'm right. And there are moments when I think I am. However, I've learned to shut my big mouth, because I have no right pushing my view on anyone. Does that make sense? What is the statement I use? Would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? Being happy means allowing the person to be themselves. When you're doing that, you're being loving to that person. That's the most critical thing to understand. When you allow a person to be themselves and you're not trying to control them, it means you're being loving. When you're trying to control the person, you're not being loving. You might say, well, this is conditional love. No, there's no such thing. Love is either unconditional or it is not love. It is through repetition that we change the subconscious programming. In other words, when a programmer sits down, they write code after code after code after code. And what do they do after they write the code? They test the code, they test the code, they test the code. That's what you're doing with your thoughts. You're writing new code for your mind. So the question you've got to first ask yourself, am I becoming a robot? And the answer is yes. The next question you got to ask is, do I believe I have the power to change the programming so that I am no longer a robot? The answer, if you want it to be, is yes. So the key thing for you is to understand there are tools that you can use. And now your job is to explore those tools, use those tools, and create the new you. And here's the thing, as you create the new you, people are not going to like it. Because people want you to be the way you are because it's easy when you remain the same. It's difficult when you've got to change because now they can't act the same. They have to grow because you've grown. And relationships that thrive and keep going are the ones that are always adapting. So I've been married 1,000 years, and in that 1,000 years of being married, we've had probably 8 or 9 very different relationships. Why? Because we've moved to different levels of consciousness. And at different levels of consciousness, that relationship has to change. So if you hear about people, I want it to be just like it was when we first met. Well, let's get real. It's not going to happen. You're never going to have the first kiss after 46 years of marriage unless it's with a new woman. Let me be honest with that. The kiss that you have is a developed kiss. It's a sensitive, it's something that you just have evolved into. And that's good. That's real good. Sometimes it's good to have comfort. This is something that I explored a little bit this last week. And I'm going to share this with you because if you're about to reprogram, know the thing that's going to really excite you if you really buy into the reprogramming, if there's a little danger involved. A little bit of fear of the unknown. Because that's what gives life its juice. And I've been playing with the idea with friends about doing the trek to the base camp of Mount Everest. And I have come alive this week by the idea. Why? I'm taking myself to a level I've never been, and there's danger. I love that. I love taking that step into something that's dangerous, and then the next step, realizing that I'm only limited by what I believe about myself. I did not believe when I first looked at doing the trek around Mount Kailash, could I do that? Because I was the oldest dude. You know, when you think when you get old, you can't do stuff. But I did Kailash. I did it as well as anyone half my age. I can also do Everest. What am I doing? I'm pushing the boundaries of my own beliefs because I believe my beliefs are limiting and my beliefs can expand. So I'm no longer a robot. I'm in control of who's programming me. And when you take control of who's programming you, you come out of the robot stage and you become the God presence in your life. You are the power in your life. And you are the power in your life because you've finally taken a moment and recognized it's always been there. All you had to do was open up, awake, and start to use it. Be the man, be the woman who's empowered by their own self. Let's pray.
I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you in the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wolak. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.